Dude, this was fun.
Yeah, this is way fun, man. Dude, you're totally good, man. Oh, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Channel 99. Got with me my friend Brad from high school. He's an entomologist, and he also has his bachelor's in plant science. So he currently has so many titles, he mixes them up. But he's co-authored quite a few papers that we go over a little bit on, and also a book. We talk about farming, bugs, plants, getting a little conspiracy theory,
chemistry, all of it,
Yeah.
Pesticides. We touched on pesticides.
GMO. There's a lot of really cool information in here, and I'm pretty sure y'all are going to be dropped some knowledge, I guess.
There we go. Educated.
Yeah, educated. That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
So anyways, make sure you subscribe, give us 5 stars, pass the episode along, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.
Shut up and sit down.
It's all good.
Brad Stokes, what's up, dude?
Hi, Tim Meyer. How are you, man?
I'm good. Everybody who's listening, this is one of my friends from high school and a little bit through college.
Yeah.
I hung out with you a few times because a lot of our friends went to University of Idaho.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so every time I got a chance, I would go up there. And I think I went up there a couple times and hung out with you guys. This is, I haven't seen you in like 12 years, maybe?
At least. That
maybe
was what?
longer than that.
2005, 2006, somewhere in there.
It's like
and
14 years.
Yeah, that's a while, man.
Yeah.
So it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's great that you were able to make some time and come hang out with me.
Absolutely.
So if everybody who did not listen to the intro, we've got Brad, who is an entomologist.
Yes.
What's your exact title again?
My exact title, and sometimes I fumble this. It's an assistant professor of extension. I'm an extension educator for the University of Idaho. I'm the county chair for Elmore County, so right next to Ada County, and I'm the department head of my office.
That's a lot of titles, dude.
It's quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So how often do you teach?
How often do I teach? And it just depends. So this spring I did a Master Gardener course. We'll run a big pesticide. I'd call it a conference this winter for all the ag and hort people over in Elmore County. So
do you enjoy bugs more than plants, or plants more than bugs?
Definitely bugs more than plants.
Yeah.
The movement, the chemistry is a lot more interesting. Yeah, they're way more advanced.
I bet. So you have your bachelor's is in plant science.
Yep.
Your master's is in entomology.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think the last time we spoke was right before you went into your master's program.
That sounds about right. So that must have been 2008 or 9, somewhere in there.
Close there. So maybe that was the last time we hung out. Because I think at that time I was thinking, like, maybe I'll go get my master's. Just like, it seems like everybody's finishing up school and they want to get their master's.
Yeah, that's when me and Reebich decided to do it. He was...
electrical engineering?
Yeah, electrical engineering, and he loved that school. He had a great professor too. So,
well, I think he's didn't he moved to like Colorado, and he was working for like a defense.
Yeah, he
contractor.
got into the military, Colorado, then Alaska for a little bit. Now he's back to Colorado.
Cool, very cool. So, Master Gardener, so we were talking a little bit about that earlier. But Master Gardeners, you were saying they're like. Your civilian gardener, like just normal gardener? What is that again?
Basically, it's a volunteer development program. So people sign up, they pay money to go to this course. It's a 12-week course, so it's a long time. I'm holding on Saturdays. I like to do the 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. because I like to have food involved. I feel like you get more attendance. Everyone's happier. You can kind of joke around while you're learning, though.
Yeah.
And we cover all the basics. So we start with soils, plants, photosynthesis. I have a big insect section as well, pesticides. And I basically help develop their knowledge so that they can go and volunteer in my county, and that's Elmore County.
Gotcha. And then they volunteer, but how do they volunteer? Do they go to like city parks and stuff like that? Like how is it that they volunteer?
They do a bunch of activities and events for us. So we have AFAD coming up. That's the Air Force Appreciation Day. I'll try and get a few of them to help us set up our tent, give out University of Idaho extension swag, try and get more people to go to the University of Idaho. That's one of my goals in my position.
So it's kind of like a recruiting process also.
It is, yeah. And they have their own bank account. They do their own stuff. I try and send them to trainings to further their knowledge so they can come back and even teach me stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really, really great program.
So how do you source these people then? Do you actually go out and recruit them?
I recruit them. We do, we advertise through the Chamber of Commerce, basically. Facebook, websites, stuff like that. And then basically word of mouth is huge in Mountain Home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the connection between bugs and plants? Like, how did you decide? You were like, all right, I just did 4 years of plants.
Yeah.
That interesting.
So how did that happen?
Maybe really interesting. I just don't know anything about them.
Yes, and that's a good story. So you remember Mr. Wilmot?
Yeah.
At Capitol.
Yeah.
He had that greenhouse. I think everyone
He was in horticulture.
Yeah, everyone took his course, right?
Yeah.
And he saw a couple years ago, he died hiking too. That was a sad story because it was right after he retired. But he got me passionate about that, and I started looking into which universities have horticulture programs. Ended up at UVI. Had this great mentor, Dr. Trepepi, and signed on with him. He got all my class schedule figured out, what classes I need to take and when. I think it was sophomore year, I started actually working for him. So he was having me do all sorts of stuff, irrigation stuff, setting up experiments for him. And then I think it was my junior and senior years, I started working for a professor of entomology up there. And his name was Dr. Baczynski. Great guy. He let me help him teach Entomology 322.
Mm-hmm.
That course, it was basically an introduction to entomology. And it's a big subject, right?
Yeah, all bugs, right?
Yeah,
Anything...
all bugs. I forget what it says on the CV, but that was economic entomology, how kind of insects relate to our economics, whether they're causing problems on crops, livestock, what have you. And then an introduction to identifying insects.
Yeah.
So I did that for a while. I graduated. And let's see, I graduated in 2008 in December. If you remember, the economy was not doing that well.
Terrible.
It was horrible. I could not find a job.
I couldn't either.
For the life of me. So I sent some emails to Baczynski and said, I have no idea what to do. And he said, well, I have a spot open for a grad student doing pea aphids. And I thought, what is this? But I applied. I got in, and that summer I started my first research project, basically, from scratch. And it's a big responsibility when they say, figure this out, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is your organism, this is your crop, get out in the field. And those fields are hot, Tim.
I bet.
Oh, man.
So they assign this to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
You get a program. So this was, it's probably on there to the grant that it was under. I'm trying to think.
I think I remember you posting something about this.
Yeah.
Because weren't you taking a bunch of photos at this time? Maybe.
I was doing a lot of photos at this time.
You taking really cool photos of bugs, too.
And then I got involved with the REACH there at the end. That was the Regional Approaches to Climate Change grant. It was the RAMP grant. That's what it was.
Okay.
It was the Risk Assessment and Mitigation grant from the USDA. So, and that funded the project. He hired me on, and I got started with bugs seriously.
What was it that attracted you to bugs? I love bugs. I told you this. I love
you
bugs.
said that, and a lot of people think I played with bugs as a kid, and I did not.
Yeah.
So I find it so weird that someone like you're always fascinated when you're a kid. Now you don't do it, and I wasn't fascinated at all, and now I love them.
So when you're out in the field looking at these bugs and stuff, like, what is it that you guys are noting? Like, what is it about? What is it that you track or do research on? So
it just depends on basically your hypothesis for that experiment. With the pea aphid one, it was about the number of aphids per plant in a cage and tracking that as it related to yield. Pretty
Okay.
simple. I mean, it sounds really simple, but when you start getting into the nitty-gritty, and when you pull out a pea plant and you start counting the number of aphids and writing it down and doing that several times over the season, it is really hard work.
Do you guys track that in like a certain program, or do you just use Excel and then kick out like some type of a graph that kind of gives you an idea of, are aphids, are they increasing or decreasing in population? How is it that works?
We basically put it in Excel.
Okay.
And then we use SAS for our statistical software.
Okay. Very cool. So when it comes to like the bugs and the plants, is there a marriage between certain bugs and plants that like you want to have a certain amount of aphids per pea plant? I don't understand. Like, are they good? Do they kill things? Do they eat things like that would maybe destroy the pea plant or whatever it is?
Yeah, so that's a tough question. It's kind of loaded in a way.
Yeah.
But there are marriages within certain species, right? You have a lot of gall-forming insects and aphids where they'll get in there and they'll start feeding and they'll inject a certain hormone mimic into that plant.
What?
Yeah, and then the plant will... You've never heard of these, huh?
No.
Yeah, so the plant will basically grow around them. There's a couple gall aphids around here. You ever seen the roses that have a bright red... It's like this, about a golf ball sized thing. That is actually a wasp that has come by and injected some eggs, and the venom is basically a hormone mimic for that rose.
What?
Yeah.
And so the rose basically, it's like a nest for those eggs, and the wasp can just leave?
Yeah, basically. So, and, depending on how many eggs she injected, pretty much 10 to a dozen she'll inject. And it's a mutualistic thing. So the plant kind of sets this aside and devotes some nutrition to that area, and the wasp develops, which is cool. And if you start seeing the roses around here, take a look.
Dude, I will.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. I never even thought about that, because I know that like certain bugs attack other bugs, obviously.
Absolutely.
Like wasps will inject other bugs with their eggs, and then
Absolutely.
Those larvae will eat that bug, and like they'll flourish. Is it kind of the same thing though with the rose? Like, does it, the way that it mimics the hormone, does the plant devote certain resources to that stem or whatever, or that bud, and then those like extra resources, and then that is consumed by the larvae? How does that work?
Basically, that's how it works, and it grows within that gall.
Yeah.
And those larvae kind of just feed a little bit at a time, and the rose kind of saves itself in a way.
That's insane.
It's not really damaging to the rose.
What kind of wasps are these?
These are cynipid wasps. So I don't even know the common name of cynipids, because I know all these insects at their family name.
Yeah.
So if you're talking
Their science name.
Yeah, where you go domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, genus, species. I'm in that family, genus, or species or subspecies level. So
that's like 10th grade biology, right?
A little higher, I think.
I mean the hierarchy.
Yeah.
I remember learning that in 10th grade biology.
Yeah.
Just like family, class, genome, species, all that kind of. Did I say that right?
No,
No.
but
Doesn't even matter.
No.
I'm not a scientist. That's crazy, dude. So then, what do we have like? As far as like, what are some of the coolest like bugs that you've noticed, at least around? Because you're out in Mountain Home.
Yeah.
Is there more of a plethora of different kinds of bugs out there, just because it's just a little more barren, or is it?
I would say the species diversity is a little lower because it is barren. We have that sagebrush steppe desert landscape, right?
True.
There's not all these different resources, but if you go up to Pine, Featherville, Anderson Dam area, Atlanta, the whole ecosystem changes.
That's insane.
Plus that elevation, well, it's about 4,800 to 5,300 feet above sea level, so big difference.
And I think in Boise we're like, what, 2021 or something like that?
Yeah, we're about 2,600 in Mountain Home.
Okay. So with the higher elevation, are you going to see, like, does that even make a difference, or is it more or less like how much water and like the diversity of plants and bugs and stuff like that?
So always the diversity of plants plays a big role
With the bugs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
speaking about, elevation differences, so I did a bee study in 2018, so last summer, and I was trying to document the bee species diversity in Elmore County. So that's a cool project I have going on right now, and I put out these yellow blue vein traps, and I went from 2350 to about 5200 feet in elevation. It was about 100-mile trap line, so that should be interesting. I have all those bees are out on contract work to be identified at the species level.
Yeah.
So I get that in late September, so I'm pretty excited about that.
That's way cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of bees, correct me if I'm wrong, but bees are not a native species to America. Am I right? Or Idaho. I'm sorry, Idaho.
The honeybee, the European honeybee, is not native.
And that's the one that's used the most for honey.
Absolutely. I mean,
that's what my dad has, I think.
Yeah, it's about the only one used for honey. Every other bee is not really commercialized like that.
Gotcha.
Farmed, if you will,
Yeah. They're really not that aggressive.
No,
not at all. And as far as like wasps and like black jackets and all those go, what really or whatever, hornets, I don't even know what to call these things. Is there like a great diversity around here? Because I've only seen one black jacket or like hornet in probably like the last like 5-6 years. They're not very common around here, but wasps are like everywhere, dude.
So that's a good question too, and I get calls at the office all the time on wasps.
Like big nests and stuff like that.
Yeah, big ones, small ones. There's probably 4 to 5 genera around here. Okay, the little ones that have those little umbrellas that you see up in your eaves, those are Polistes wasps.
Okay,
so those are just paper wasps.
Yeah,
and they get like, their colony might get to 30 or something. They're harmless as long as you're not walking right by them or running the lawnmower or trimmer.
Yeah, agitating them in some way.
Yeah, there's the aerial yellow jacket. That's in the genus Dolichovespula.
Whoa.
So go and look that up, people,
Yeah.
all right? But that can get a little bit bigger. And then the bald-faced hornet, those black and white ones.
Yeah. Those are the big ones, dude.
Yeah, those are massive. And I've heard people say they kind of do have a attitude, if you will. They're kind of aggressive. I'd say that's true.
Yeah.
They will defend their area.
Yeah.
And
they're
wherever
just pissed off.
Yeah.
Period. Like, fuck everybody else, man.
That's right.
No, because I had one. It flew into my house, and I was like, well, "That isn't a wasp, man. That thing's way too big to be a wasp." And then I looked at it. It had more black on it, I think, or maybe it was more. I don't really remember. It was just big, and I remember it just did not look like a wasp. And I was like, "That has to be like a hornet, or if it is a wasp, it has to be like a wasp I've never seen or haven't seen in a long time."
Gotcha. We also have like Sphecids, and those are thread-waisted wasps. Typhoids, I can't remember the common name. Scoliids, all these are really cool. And then, what's the one that I always get calls on is the Western cicada killer.
Whoa.
And it is a big wasp. I mean, it's probably double the size of like the big wasp you saw.
And we have these in Idaho.
Yeah.
So when I lived in Virginia, we had like when I went over there for the first time, the bugs over there were like super colorful, and it was like most of the bugs I like saw over there for the first time. I was like, I've never seen this. What the fuck is this thing? Like everything was way different.
Yeah.
And I remember we would get Japanese hornets. Is that what they call them? Or Japanese wasps? They were huge, bro. They were like, dude, giant.
For real?
Big, okay, dude. They were so big.
I've never seen one, and I don't know the ecosystem over there, but if they're that big, that'd be cool.
Yeah, they're probably the size of my thumb, man. And I remember the first time I saw it, it was in my house. I was like, what is that, dude? That's the biggest, like, wasp I've ever seen.
And is it like making a racket in your house against the window?
Yeah, it was just trying to hit trying to get out the window.
Yeah.
And I saw quite a few of them over there. I think that's what they call them, Japanese hornets or something like that.
I have to look into it.
They were so big. And so I just remember always seeing those things. Never got stung, never talked to anybody about getting stung or anything like that. But I've always wondered like I've always wondered how a Japanese hornet would even get to Virginia, or if that's just what they call it. Yeah. But yeah, just another thing I never saw. How about big old honeybees, the big old furry guys?
The bumblebees?
Yeah, bumblebees.
Okay, bumblebees. We have a lot of species around here as well.
Okay.
They flew into my traps.
Okay.
So they're in the genus Bombus, much smaller colony size, and they like to build their nests kind of on the ground, right? I've seen them in like old mops that have just been like thrown outside.
And they just build a home in there?
Yeah, just build a home. 'Cause they like to crawl through what I'd call like shrubbery in the forest.
Mm-hmm. So, do they have any stinging mechanism? What's their defense? Because they seem so nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they look cuddly.
They are nice. I mean, you pick one up. It's not a big deal. Let's see. Yeah, stinging mechanisms. So that's an interesting topic. So all what I call wasps, they all have unbarbed stingers.
Okay.
So they can sting you multiple times. You know, when I was a kid, I had one get in my shoe and it popped me 6, 7, 8 times.
Whoa.
And that hurts.
Yeah.
So, and then you have the bees. Their stinger or sting apparatus or modified ovipositor, whatever you want to call it.
I love this.
Yeah. It's attached to that venom sac. And it is barbed at the end. So when a bee stings you, it's sacrificing its life. So it really thought you were a threat, right?
Yeah. Fucking kamikaze, dude.
Right? And another thing about stingers and stinging, only the females can do it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Males do not have ovipositors, so they cannot sting you.
That's interesting.
And that goes for, you know, this is a scary thing. You can't say this in any other field of science. There's always an exception in entomology, whatever it is. So we have like a little over 1 million described species right now.
And just climbing. Because
And
you guys
climbing.
find bugs all the time.
Yeah, and if you look at like the circle of life, well, not the circle of life, but the animal biodiversity of the earth, about 65, 68%.
Yeah.
And that would include the spiders, crustaceans, stuff like that.
Do you cover any of that stuff? Spiders and crustaceans and stuff like that?
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
love
there's
spiders,
a spider.
dude.
Yeah,
I love spiders. You wrote a research paper on spiders?
No,
Oh,
not
I thought you were going
yet.
to say, like, check out my CV.
But that would be cool.
Page 9.
We also, what do we get? We get those wind scorpion, sun scorpion, camel spiders over in Mountain Home.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
got stung by a scorpion
A scorpion? Oh, really?
on my back.
Oh,
We were
really?
out at the Bruno Dunes, I think.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that where they're at, right? They have small scorpions out there.
Yeah, they don't get too big. I
They're
just
small.
had a kid bring one in the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's on the Facebook page. Check it out.
Okay, I'll check it out. It was small, though?
Yeah, it was pretty small.
He just caught it and was like, hey, man,
I think
check out my
that-
scorpion.
Scott and Haley, yeah, they found it in their house. I think it was their kids that found it.
So if one of those, they're poisonous, but they're not like death threatening, right? Or are they?
Here's how I describe what people think is poisonous and venomous.
Oh, gotcha.
Most things have venom, right?
Yeah.
But just because it has venom doesn't mean it's poisonous to us or your dog or your kid, you know?
Right.
So it's venomous, yeah.
Just enough to kill its prey.
Just enough to kill its prey. A lot of the venom, too, like the sphecids and some of those other cool wasps, it just immobilizes them. So it'll get on their prey and just basically attach their nerve cord and stop all movement, which is pretty cool considering they take it back to the nest, lay an egg, and then the larvae eats it while it's still alive.
Whoa.
That's pretty creepy,
That's
right?
fucking awesome. I didn't even know that's what wasps do.
Mm-hmm.
They do. Oh my gosh, I didn't know
So,
that.
yeah, these would be like the underground wasps, and especially
yeah.
what I'd call the parasitic or parasitoid wasps.
Yeah. Because I've seen those, not here, but I've seen those on like TV and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So then with spiders, what are like some of the coolest spiders that you've come across here?
Ooh, cool spiders. That is a good question. So we have the western black widow, right?
Yeah.
Lactrodectus.
Is that what they call it? The science name?
Yeah.
Latrodectus?
Latrodectus hesperus.
That's a long name. How do you remember all this stuff? Well, I guess like that's
I
all you do.
I literally have no idea, though. I think even my staff sometimes are like, "What is he talking about?"
Yeah,
and
that's
then
the spider.
and I'll say it and like write it on a piece of paper and like look this up, and they're like, Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's so weird. That's
It is
awesome,
weird.
man.
I just have I'm thinking a little bit of a photographic memory.
Yeah, yeah. You
Just like
definitely
that.
can remember stuff very well.
Yeah.
I would be like completely like confused. I'd confuse myself right now if I was.
But
trying
then
to say
again,
those.
sometimes I can't find my car keys. You know?
Totally. Have you what are your thoughts on like GMO stuff?
GMO stuff?
Yeah, like GMO for like plants. Like, does it affect bugs? Like, because I know some GMO, they create like a resistance within the plant to like deter certain bugs that attack those crops.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so and like you wrote this, you were part of this book, Advances in Dryland Farming in the Inland Pacific Northwest, because we do a lot of like, especially in Washington and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dry farming, a lot of grains.
Absolutely. We have a bunch of wheat in Elmore too. So, as far as GMOs, genetically modified organisms,
Yeah.
I think,
At least for plants.
yeah, for me, I don't see a problem with it.
I don't either.
I recognize that over the past 50,000, 100, 150,000 years, we've been selectively breeding for these traits in whatever crop it is.
Yeah, cross pollinating.
Yeah, all that stuff, right? You look at like what you'd call an old school corn plant, and there's literally nothing there. Same for the old school potatoes.
Yeah.
Now we have these big potatoes. You have to be able to feed everyone, right?
Right.
There is, with the insertion of genes, so what was the first instance? I think it was 96 when they put like a BT gene in cotton. So they inserted the gene in the cotton plant, grew it out. They actually had insect resistance that year
Whoa.
because that gene was not expressed everywhere equally within the plant. No one ever thought of that, right? You think if you put a gene in something, it's going to be all over.
Right.
But there were certain parts of that plant that weren't expressed as well as other parts.
So they probably just cut this plant up and then tested each part to make sure that just to see like what was influenced and what wasn't.
Well, what I think happened, okay, so for cotton, I think it was the cotton bollworm in that year. Big time pest down in Texas, right? You need cotton for textiles and whatnot. So they're having problems with this pest. They realize that this BT gene, BT is basically Bacillus thuringiensis, and I hate that Latin name. I hate it. But it's a naturally occurring soil bacterium. So it's everywhere, right? You could probably find it in your backyard right here. But some entomologists long time ago realized that it had insecticidal properties only against the larvae of certain lepidopterans.
What are those?
So caterpillars.
Okay.
So when the caterpillar eats a plant or any part that has this BT on it, the BT travels in the midgut and then basically crystallizes and then just slices open the caterpillar from the inside out.
Whoa.
Yeah, so the thought was put that gene in this plant, and then when that is expressed or let loose in the caterpillar, it just slices it up and voila, no more pest.
That is insane, dude.
Scientists are crazy.
Dude, that is so crazy. Oh, well, I'm like, here's another question I have for you about plants, dude. So there was recently an article that I read, mostly like the first paragraph before I got too busy and couldn't read the rest. But
You were like, I don't know what this says.
yeah, I'm just gonna regurgitate the headline. But it was essentially it was about plants and whether or not they actually have some type of like neuro connectivity, like brain activity, essentially, like that they do maybe like not necessarily speak to each other, but they communicate through hormones and
Absolutely.
like
there,
grass and all kinds of stuff.
yeah, there is some really cool. Do you ever watch like TED Talks?
I do, but not often.
Oh man, so that was part of my Master Gardener course. Is I was like, dude, we got to watch some of these really cool TED Talks.
Yeah.
Because there are specific talks on that.
Okay.
Where they can go in and take a piece of plant and go and test it, and then go and test a plant that's a ways away, and there's this difference.
Do they test like energy or stress level? What is it they test?
I'm thinking that they test the hormones.
Oh,
You know, some of the
yeah.
big, what I'd call the big two hormones in plants would be like auxin and then cytokinin. And then there's a whole list of others, though.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just those two. I don't know what those horticulturists or botanists are really testing for, but it would be interesting to know. Or read that paper, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Or watch that TED Talks.
Yeah, the TED Talk is really good. I believe that scientist was talking about a big forest system.
Mm-hmm.
So all those trees were interconnected, and was it aspens or birches? I can't remember.
Yeah, so my neighbor has the white tree with like green
That's a
leaves.
birch.
The birch, yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say I think it's a birch. And those ones are all interconnected.
Yeah,
And they have giant forests of those things.
Giant. I forget where the biggest. It might be Siberia, where one of the biggest, what they call living organisms is. You know, just hundreds and thousands of square miles of this specific tree, but it's all interconnected.
Yeah.
And then they test the genes, and they're all the same. That's crazy to me.
So they're like clones.
Yeah,
They're all
basically
clones.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, of course, you have to throw in that there's going to be some. Oh, what do you call it? I can't even think. Mutations.
Sure.
In that
Yeah.
population, yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody not too long ago because I was cutting my grass, and they were like, "Did you know the smell from the grass is actually that grass telling all the other grass that you're going to come around and cut it?" And I was like, I didn't even think about that. So that's what grass smelled like after you cut it. But I guess they were releasing, and I don't know, the science behind it or whether it's true or not. But I always thought that's kind of crazy if grass is literally speaking, like communicating through hormone release and saying, "Yo, like there's a threat. You need to figure out something to do."
Yeah.
Because aren't there certain plants that they will release a pheromone, and other plants will start to secrete their defenses?
Absolutely. So what we call that in science is volatile compounds from that leaf or that plant. They're doing a lot of research on what they call the headspace around that plant and the chemistry and how that relates to different plants. And I don't think they get enough credit, as society, that they really are very, very highly evolved creatures.
Yeah.
A
lot more so than I think people know. Especially you vegetarians out there. Stop killing things.
No comment.
Are you vegetarian?
No.
I love vegetarians. Just don't tell me you're one. I hear it from the CrossFit guys and every other type of fad out there. So.
I'm an omnivore. I eat anything that's put in front of me.
Me too. I eat it all. Except people. I won't eat a person.
No, that's a little weird.
I've
I've heard we taste good though. Isn't one of those cannibals say that we taste pretty good?
Yeah, don't they say we taste like the rough end of a ham or something like that? Isn't that what he said on what's the one? Oh my gosh, it puts the lotion on the skin. What movie is that? Hannibal, or the one before it.
Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs. Yeah. I couldn't. Why can't I think of that? I've seen that movie 20 times, but that's what he said too. So I've always thought about that. Like, I do like ham.
I'm scared now.
But don't know if I want to eat people.
Yeah,
that's kind of weird. No, I'm the same way. All right. So, what has been probably one of the more fun research projects that you've worked on so far?
Oh, fun. Definitely that bee study. It was led by me, right? I figured out all the points. I went out and did all the data collection, took it back to the office, and I had an intern, Heather, thanks. She sat and suffered through pitting thousands of bees. And, a lot of people say, "Hey, why'd you kill all these?" Yes, they do sacrifice their life, but I think the science gained really tells us something. I don't think anyone's ever thought about, hey, what species do we have here now? And then even more on top of that, what will we have in 10, 20, 30 years? The idea is to track that over time. And you can't know anything without at least a baseline data set.
Yeah. So with the honeybees and the whole bee epidemic, did they ever figure out what that was? Because I've heard a couple different things.
Gotcha. So they were calling that
bee flu or something like that?
No, colony collapse disorder, CCD.
Yes.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yep. where we lost like what would they say, like 30% of like the hives or some crazy number.
And bees are still in trouble. I think that's why I try and focus on that a little bit more. With the bees, you have to realize they're like any other organism. Mm-hmm. They have a suite of predators, parasitoids, viruses, bacteria, fungi that are not only attacking individuals within their colony, but the colony itself. Mm-hmm. You throw on those stresses, and then you throw on possible pesticide exposure, neonicotinoids, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then maybe some management issues or, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Whether it's nectar resources, whatever it is.
Yeah, because I heard somebody was trying to tell me that it's possible. This is like right when like the CCD like started hitting and it started making mainstream news. And I can't remember who it was, but I was talking to them about it, and I was like, "Oh, dude, this might be a bad deal. Like, they should probably fix this problem because they're talking like this. Like, the bees are important to our ecosystem.
Absolutely,
like, dude, they they pollinate like lots of plants. You know, and without them, you know, a lot of stuff would die. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about how it like. He was saying it had to do with the replacement of like sugar during like the off season or whatever.
Yeah,
with high fructose corn syrup, it could be causing a problem.
Oh, really? See, I don't know much about actual beekeeping, interestingly enough, but I do know that, you know, in the early spring or late fall, the beekeepers will supplement their bees.
Yeah.
I mean, they need some kind of nectar, sugary solution to make honey. Mm-hmm.
And that was one of his points that he was making, was like it's more than likely that it's, you know, a lot of these beekeepers are trying to make money or make more money by supplementing like sugar, because sugar's a little more expensive, you know.
And then you also have this interesting thing where a lot of bees are traveled, you know, down to California in the late fall and then brought up. So this traveling, I don't know if it's necessarily good for the population as a whole.
Probably not.
I would think the more travel, you know, you could imagine if I sent you to India all the time or somewhere. I'm not singling you out, India. Somewhere where diseases are a little more prevalent, you might get sick or bring that back to to Boise, Idaho.
Well, they do these big bee farm things out in California, I guess, and they're like big orchards and stuff.
Almonds are the big one.
Like almond orchards and stuff like that. And what they'll do is, I think, my understanding is the almond farmers will rent out like a space for these beekeepers to take a bunch of hives.
They will, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a mutual benefit, and then they will travel them back. And the documentary and everything that this was covering was really about how a lot of these beekeepers, how they do that. But there's a lot of theft involved, and so
I can believe that.
They'll lose a lot of their stuff, like thousands and thousands of dollars worth of bees, and they have tons of hives, dude.
Yeah, and they have to go up north because they have to get like Washington apples and stuff like that. If you don't have honeybees there to pollinate them, that farmer is gonna be in trouble.
Yeah. And does Washington have a pretty similar ecosystem, or are you more familiar with just Idaho?
Moscow is like 8 miles away.
Yeah.
From Pullman.
Basically Washington.
I traveled to Pullman quite a bit. We went to, I can't remember all the towns I visited, but I'm pretty familiar with Washington.
And Eastern Washington and Eastern Oregon are obviously very different than the western side of the states.
Way different.
Way different. Way dry. You know, east side is way dry. And with wetter climates, like more humid, rainier climates, do you find like the diversity completely changed just because of plants?
It's basically like a little rainforest, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, a lot more plant species. You're gonna have more fungi and bacteria and viruses in those. Fungi love, you know, high humidity. Cooler temperatures, that 80 degrees, 85 degrees.
Yeah. So you study fungi and stuff also? You study everything?
I dabble in it.
You dabble? Do you have you written any papers on any fungi stuff? Dude, you came up with some cool papers.
That Rhizoctonia solani, that's a fungus. So yeah, that was a new strain we discovered in Elmore County. It's actually the first report in Idaho, so that's kind of cool. That was with Kasha Duelman and James Woodall. I think they are both University of Idaho Extension specialists. So they have their doctorates.
Dang.
Smart people.
Have you thought about going back and doing your doctorate?
No.
Me neither.
No, I
Nah.
don't. I feel like once you get that, you're more administration only. You're not necessarily in the field. That doesn't mean that.
You're stuck in academia, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not really private sector stuff.
No.
Yeah. And it's tough. Maybe like when you're like 60 or something. You have
Maybe
nothing else going on in your
you know,
life.
that'd be kind of just a fun side gig to get in on.
It's like
though,
a project.
You know? Yeah.
Don't put it on your resume. You
Well,
don't get a
way
job.
down the road. Way down the road.
They look at you and they're like, you're 35 and you have a doctorate? What are you doing with your life?
Right.
Spent 10 years in college? Go get a job, man. Go get some experience.
Right? Lifelong students.
Yeah. I have a couple friends with doctorates and I'm like, but you're overqualified for every job that you have experience for.
Uh-huh.
Like nobody's gonna want to hire you. Like, come on,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, that was my predicament. I was like, do I go back to school? Nah, screw that. I'm gonna enjoy my life.
I really like where my career's at right now, and it's just building, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Do you travel a lot?
Let's see. We'd go to some conferences. Idaho Association of County Ag Agents, National Association of County Ag Agents. I'm a member of the Entomological Society of America. I work with, a lot of people. Extension is everywhere. I don't know if people know. We have 44 counties in Idaho. Okay. We have 42 county offices. Some of these offices are right on the border of these smaller counties. Mm-hmm. And then we have research and experiment stations all over the state.
Like just small offices with just lab equipment?
No, these are big.
Whoa.
You're talking, so Sandpoint has one. Coeur d'Alene does not. Moscow. Parma has a big one. A lot of stuff happens at Parma. We have our big pathology and nematology extension specialists. A lot of research comes out of Parma. The dean right now is starting on CAFE, which is the Center for Ag and Food Ecosystems, or the environment. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be more of a dairy, cow plus plants, insects, water. So that's going to be a big extension center in Twin Falls with another office in Jerome. Kimberly has a big research station. Salmon has a big one as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it just because of where they're at and because of just the biodiversity is that we call it?
Well, that, and then some of our old alumni donate all this acreage, and when they're going to pass on, they say, hey, I built this all up. It's a cool area. Let's have some University of Idaho professors get in here and do some research for the people of the state.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy, dude. I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
Like just people who donate parcels of land to just research.
Right?
Yeah. I think about it like people donate land for like parks and stuff like that. But I never thought like, I'm about to die. I'm just going to donate this to research. It's
right.
I
just have this 400 acres that I'm not doing anything with. So, but I mean, we appreciate it. It's cool.
That's way cool. And so when they pass on, do you guys, or after the donation, is it donated to the university?
I believe so.
So the university owns like 400 acres or whatever? 40 acres or whatever?
More than that.
Well, I mean, like from this person, like the school just owns that property.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. Damn, that's a lot of money, dude.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's crazy. So when you go out on these like expeditions, like these research expeditions, like how long are you guys out?
Well, it depends what I'm there for.
Mm-hmm.
I might just collect a little bit of data, or I might be there all day or a couple days doing whatever I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Or if we're at a conference, we're probably learning from each other and seeing what is up and coming, right? Mm-hmm. We always want to be looking forward, not backwards.
Right. So when you go out and collect data, what kind of data would you even be collecting? Just like little small samples of everything, a couple bugs, a couple plants.
Let's see. So, okay, I did. Here's a good example. We did a fire study in Elmore County. Me and an extension specialist from Boise. we went out and we took little kind of soil cores like that. And we did this on Idaho land, not federal land, because you have to get a NEPA or whatever.
That's so dumb.
It's a pain in the butt.
That's
but,
so dumb.
We did 3 transects. I think they were 100 feet or 30 meters. And we went out and we just pounded these cores in it and took that soil from each transect, put it in a bag, and we did that for 2 days.
You just bored holes in the ground, and by core, how deep did you guys go? Like 6 inches?
Not even that. I'm thinking 3 or 4.
Wow.
But the idea is to relate that plant biodiversity to wildfire frequency. So I thought that was interesting. It was an interesting project. All those plants were grown in Moscow and then ID'd. So.
Oh, so it was like a controlled study. Kind
in
of.
a way.
Yeah.
Controlled as in each site had wildfire at one point.
Okay.
Some sites had like 3 or 4 wildfires. So the hypothesis was basically the more it burned, the more that area would just have cheatgrass dominant species there.
I was watching this documentary, and it was about like rainforests and what the natives would do because, and this blew my mind. I honestly was like, how in the hell? It doesn't make sense to me that like there's a rainforest and then they say that the soil is so poor. And I'm like, those trees are everywhere and they're huge. And basically what they were talking about was that it was the history of like Central and South America and how these like, these Europeans who came in like the 14 and 1500, well, I guess like 14, 1500s, they were going down the Nile and they saw these giant civilizations, like 30, 40, 50,000 people, these huge civilizations.
Wow.
And that these plants were actually intentional. And that these civilizations had, they had intentionally planted certain types of plants around their civilization and all that kind of stuff. Like it was all
thought out.
It was all thought out.
Yeah.
And after the Europeans went there the first time and they talked about these giant civilizations and like all these different people and completely different culture and all that stuff, well, like they came back another 100 years later and they were like, there's nobody even here because everybody had died probably from like the smallpox and everything else that these Europeans had introduced.
They introduced so many bad diseases and
so
stuff.
Bad, dude. And they were just wiped out, or these civilizations just packed up and were like, we're getting the fuck out. Dude. People are dying. This is the plague. And so these plants, if you were to just leave Boise, everybody, and come back in 100 years, like you'd probably see civilization, but everything would be grown in. All the streets would probably like be cracked and ruined. And, it's 100 years, right? And they were saying that one of the things that these ancient civilizations would implement because of the poor soil and the nutrients and whatnot, which didn't make any sense because I'm like, there's things falling from these trees, like these trees fall down.
It should be breaking down a little bit, adding some organic matter.
Yeah, exactly. But they said that these ancient civilizations created what's called black soil, and it was like a controlled burning process. And then it would have all these microorganisms in there, and you can put it in any soil, and instantaneously that soil becomes productive, and you can grow anything from it. And so, do you know anything about black soil? Because I was kind of about to ask you. Yeah, black soil, man. The
black
Mayans
soil.
and all those guys, and it was all through controlled burning. And what they would do is they'd burn a field, and then they would rake it, and then they'd burn it and rake it, and they would create literally black soil. And it was basically just charcoal, like just charred plants. And then they would stir that in with their farming, and it would create better soil for crops for large populations. And that's the only place in the world that it's found is in like Central and South America, where a lot of these like native tribes had figured out how to actually grow food where they were at, But these tribes they're gone now. There's a few I would assume that they probably still utilize that same method for cultivating, but I really don't know. But yeah, look it up, dude. Black soil.
Okay, I'll have to do soil because, I've taken a couple soil classes, and it's really interesting. It's more complicated than you think, too, right? You have sand, silt, clay, your main components of soil, organic matter. And then I read a really interesting quote about a gentleman that said, when you plow, we all love that smell, right? That fresh dirt, kind of earth.
Yeah,
earth.
it does smell good.
Yeah, it does really smell
Yeah.
good. You know, a farmer was saying that that's basically those microbes dying. You know how you're talking about the grass?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm dying. So
They're like, watch out, dudes.
mhm.
We're
and,
dying.
and I think the more farming and stuff, we actually start thinking about those microbes, because that basically runs the earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whether it's our body, the plant, the soil, other animals, the bacteria, basically, you're just a blob of bacteria.
That's exactly what I think. We're just
Yeah.
all bacteria on planet Earth, and this planet is just a living creature in itself.
Yeah,
And we're just bacteria on top of it.
Yeah.
That's literally how I
I'm
think
just
of
a
it.
blob of bacteria that can think a little bit.
Yeah. And we're full of bacteria.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, it's everywhere.
it's everywhere.
I have no problem with that, though.
No, not at all.
I have a friend that he basically carries around a little bottle of Dawn dish soap.
Yeah, and like to wash his hands and stuff. or
Oh,
what?
yeah. He puts it on everything, and I'm like, man, you're going to get MRSA or something.
Yeah. You're not supposed to even put antibacterial soap on anymore. There was a study that came out. You're not supposed to use antibacterial soap because you'll get sick quicker, because your body needs that bad bacteria to build up your immune system.
Yeah, you have to have those genes are in your, what do you call that?
What?
Your immune system, basically.
Yeah, your immune
Yeah,
system. Yeah.
It copies all that stuff and
It
remembers
does.
that.
It does. Yeah,
And
it
that's
totally does.
pretty amazing. Not that I'm a doctor, but
No, it's true. Like
Yeah.
DNA, your DNA, it remembers stuff.
absolutely.
And that's, I mean, through evolution, obviously it takes a long time, but like, yeah, I mean, your defense mechanisms, like everything about your body is going to change depending on what your environment is.
Absolutely.
you
And
know?
that's why, you see the flu vaccines all the time,
Mhm.
but they're all made of different DNA or RNA of that flu virus.
Mm-hmm.
So you could get a flu shot and then you'll get a different strain that infects you.
That makes total sense. Kind of like colds, right?
Yeah,
They say
yeah.
once you catch a cold, you never catch that same cold again.
Exactly.
But it's the same symptoms, just a different strain of the same virus.
And those mutate so fast
Yeah.
that you can't even keep up, basically.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. So what are some of the other things that are kind of... Oh, you know what? I was going to ask you about farming.
Okay.
Because you brought up the farming stuff.
All right, cool.
And I mean, you were part of a book about farming.
Yeah,
so,
so
I'm really
that was
interested in
the Regional Approaches to Climate Change. It was a $20 million grant.
Mhm.
It involved University of Idaho, Washington State University, and Oregon State University. And it was written by Dr. Sanford Eigenbrod, who's a distinguished professor of entomology, and he taught me several courses. So
That's cool.
I got a little tie-in with that. He's a good guy.
And this is through Washington State University.
Well, yeah, that book was published through their extension system, basically.
Gotcha. What is an extension system? Because I see extension, and you said it a few times.
Yeah, it basically relates back to, let's see, the Smith-Lever Act and then the Morrill Act. Basically, Congress said, hey, we have this land-grant university, right? And it basically established this system, this cooperative system between the USDA and Congress and the land-grant university to put this in place so that they had more professors throughout each state.
Okay.
Because you could think in, 1909, if I'm a farmer in southern Idaho and moss goes up north, how long would it take for me to get an answer about my wheat field that's dying right behind me?
Oh.
You'd have to get on horse, and it would take days just to get there.
Yeah.
But your whole wheat field might go down.
Whoa. Never even
Yeah.
thought about that.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
why we are here and why I'm in my position. And there's a whole... Have you been to the extension office over in Ada County right on Glenwood?
I haven't.
Stop by sometime.
I should. Go
Some
check it out.
smart people there. Susan Bell, Ariel Agenbrod, some great 4-H educators as well.
Yeah. Speaking of 4-H, you were talking earlier about how you were doing classes or something like that for 4-H. You were teaching classes, or you were... What was it? What was your...
So
4-H stuff?
I basically oversee 4-H.
Okay.
And that's a youth development program for ages 5 to 18, sometimes 19 if the kid was put in school a little later. It focuses on us. We have so many projects. We have over 200 projects for the youth. My big push last fall was shooting sports.
That's cool.
I never realized we could do shooting sports. So we always had archery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is cool, and it's been big for a while, and it's always been growing. But I recruited some leaders, and thank you, leaders, because they're awesome. They're adults. We send them to the University of Idaho class, and it's like a 3-day course, right? They get certified. They come back to Elmore County. They start building a club, get some kids involved, and they all get projects. They were doing shotgun and 22s. And I love the fact that I can help youth learn responsible and safe firearm handling in a rural location like that.
Totally.
Under good supervision, too, you know?
Yeah, so you guys did, like, skeet and target shooting?
So they did skeet, and that's shotgun, which is cool. You know, they set it up. I can't remember when we did that. What's that? It was right before fair, so mid-early July. I got all the photos on Facebook. So.
I'll have to check those out.
Yeah, and then the kids with the 22s, they do targets, and then they do little silhouettes.
That's cool.
And I think most of it's open sights. So no scopes. They're learning marksmanship skills, actual, and it's fun. With their projects, they learn trajectory, velocity, all the kind of dynamics that go into, or I guess ballistics, right?
Yeah, totally. Did you guys teach them different types of grain and like different types of bullets and stuff like that, or just more like how to handle a gun, like safety? And...
You know, we definitely do handling, safety, figuring that all out. Each youth kind of develops their own project. We also have all the curriculum behind that is university approved. So I just thought it was neat.
How long is 4-H? I mean, like how long was the program that you did?
So
this for?
each year, so it's reoccurring every year.
Okay.
Sign-ups start October 1st, and everything's basically done mid-July for us. Now, it's different throughout the state, though, because some counties have fairs in September. Did you know that?
I don't, like county fairs kind of thing?
Yeah.
Oh.
Up north is when quite a bit of counties have, like, later fairs.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't even go to our fairs down here.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what you'd go with.
Go to them, and you'll see, you know, there's these traditional 4-H projects that everyone knows, like beef, swine, goat, sheep, lamb, chicken, whatever, small
like
animals.
Best of kind of thing?
Yeah, you know, they get in there, they do shows, they do quality market, and they sell them at the end of the fair. I think I haven't seen the final numbers, so I can't tell you for sure, but I think our livestock sale probably generated between $180,000 to $200,000
For the 4-H club?
for all the 4-H youth in Elmore County.
Whoa.
So anyone that sold anything, and it's great because a lot of these kids will put it in their checking account or savings account to buy their animal for this next year. And it just builds up, and then we give scholarships every year. It's quite amazing seeing these kids progress and learn stuff, and then hopefully at the end they're set up with $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for college, or for whatever they want to do. If they want to go into a trade school,
that's
do
so
it.
cool.
I'm all for trade schools.
Yeah. I'm all for just educating yourself, period. Just don't be an idiot. Don't be dumb.
Gain a marketable skill.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Whatever
just
that is.
continue to improve.
And like what you're doing.
And enjoy what you're doing. Yeah, we talked about this earlier.
Definitely.
If you don't, figure it out, man. Figure it out. We live in America. You can do pretty much anything you want.
Yep.
What was it that I was talking about? The 4-H. Oh yeah. Do you guys ever come across like animals? You're like, dude, that cow's roided out right now.
No, not really. A lot of like the cow projects, it really comes down to feeding. I'll invite. There's a great educator over in Owyhee County. I'll invite him over to hopefully do like a feeding class for the kids the next year.
Which is super important. I was watching a documentary on milk and cow farming.
Yeah, and we have some cool dairies over in Elmore County too.
Oh yeah, you drive through there. There's tons of cattle farms, dude. A lot of milk farms, a lot of beef farms. Mm-hmm. What do they call those? Jersey Betties or something like that?
Yeah, the two big ones I could think of, Sunview and TLK.
Okay.
Huge. And if you ever want a tour, let me know.
Yeah. I do kind of.
They're cool.
I'll probably have to drive down next little while.
It's neat. It's really neat. All high. I mean, TLK is cutting edge. Mm-hmm. And
what's TLK?
That's a dairy.
Okay.
And
was that the one? What was the dairy that was lobbying to not like? There were a couple years ago. There was the whole Dairy Act or something in Idaho where the farmers are like, "No, you can't come in and like take photos and video in our farm." Like, because something got out a couple years ago. I don't know if it was a farm in like eastern Idaho, or I think most of the dairy farms are in western Idaho, aren't they? Or they're probably everywhere.
I'm thinking they're spread around.
They were lobbying, like the dairy farmers around here were lobbying to make it illegal to go into their farms and take videos and photos because, if like one animal gets mistreated, the whole farm takes the impact, and that's, if you have a bad ranch hand who's a dick to your animals and somebody films it, that's not necessarily your fault. Plus that animal probably just kicked them in the balls. You have no idea.
And, I don't know much about the lobbying of the ranchers or dairy industry, but just like any animal or any organism, it's going to have its own suite of whatever that's attacking it,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But so TLK, what was the other big ranch you said?
Sunview for dairies. Those are the two dairies, and we have a bunch of big ranchers over there. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how many head of cattle do you think they have? Like 20, 30,000, like that big?
Well, have you seen the Simplot feedlot? Have you ever seen that?
No.
So what I heard, it's about 100,000 head.
What?
I mean, it's amazing to see. It's really cool. And that would be something to put together.
That would be
a little
cool.
Tour, take a look, because you have to drive way back in there. If you look at it from a couple miles away, you just see like a black and white dot. Mm-hmm. As you get closer, it's like, holy cow.
That's like 20,000 cattle right there.
Yeah.
100,000 cattle.
Yeah, it's
That's
like a
crazy.
little city, and they, feed them really well, and that's where we get our beef, or at least some of it.
That's what the documentary was saying, is like a lot of these, circling back to, like the rainforest, a lot of the rainforests are being cleared for like soy farms. Mm-hmm. And this is when they started talking about the black soil, was because they're clearing out all these forests, and they're finding multiple like ancient civilizations back there, by the way.
Really
which is
cool.
Crazy.
So are they finding like the infrastructure, like bricks and like?
Oh yeah, like full on buildings that have been covered by trees and plants.
That's cool.
Like we're talking like civilizations that could have housed like 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people.
If they need a scientist, they should hire me. I'll go.
They should. If you look at like a top-down photo of these like soy farms, it is literally cut and dry. You see like a beautifully done farm, right? Like a little crop, and then right next to it is like the most dense forest like you can even imagine. It is literally like a light green and a dark green. And I was looking at the forest, and I was like, dude, you could walk 3 feet into that forest and nobody would be able to ever find you again, and you could be 3 feet away from them.
Wow, that's cool.
Because it's so dense. And but they were saying is agriculturally and economically, it didn't make sense for a lot of these these farmers in those areas to clear out these fields, because the nourishment from the soil is so low that you're getting a low grade soybean. Mm-hmm. And then that's all exported to Europe.
Okay. And
Europe is feeding soy products to a lot of their commercialized farming, because like the way Europe does their milk and whatnot. But like
they're a little different, aren't they?
They are a little different. They're a little weird. And they were saying about, as far as like cattle go, especially milking cattle, that that those are the types of cows that actually need better protein and better meat, because soy protein, I guess they say you only absorb 30%. So these cattle are eating like 70% more food than they need to get the nourishment that they need to produce a good milk and the quality of it. And like you have to provide like a high quality feed for these for these animals to get the best quality milk. And it got kind of broke down into the science behind it. But it was super interesting just because I don't even know what cows really eat. All I see them eat is like hay and like alfalfa.
Basically, the best alfalfa we grow goes to the dairies.
And where, like, that you guys grow.
Yeah, we have some really big alfalfa growers in Elmore County.
But you can't, you have to, don't you grow the alfalfa, but they can't eat the green alfalfa.
No,
right?
you kind of got to let it get less hot is what a dairy specialist might tell me, and I don't know what that necessarily means, but you do have to let it kind of cool down, if you will. And I think it has something to do with nitrates.
Yeah, that makes sense, because it does put a lot of nitrogen back in the ground. I've heard that, especially with certain plants, you want to grow them close to each other. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, like companion planting, they basically call it,
Yeah, and like certain plants reintroduce different types of like minerals or vitamins back into the soil, and the other plant absorbs it and does the same. It's like a symbiotic relationship in a way.
Yeah, in that, so alfalfa and other legumes, beans too, they fix atmospheric nitrogen, which is cool. They're taking nitrogen out of the air and putting it into the soil, and we all know that nitrogen's basically the biggest macronutrient for all the plants. It's the most limited resource, so it's really good for the soils. They keep these alfalfa fields for about 4 years, and they cut it, depending on the farm, 4 to 5 times a year.
So is it so they do one crop, and then they don't rotate necessarily, but they just basically redo the whole process so many times.
Alfalfa's perennial, basically, so it grows back every year.
Yeah.
But it loses its quality about year 4, sometimes 5, depending.
Like old people.
No comment.
The leaves are getting wrinkly. Let's bail. So they don't retill it and reseed. They just cut.
Yeah, well, they cut, harvest that, rake it all up, put it into bales, let it cool down, feed that to the dairy cows.
Gotcha.
Sometimes horses, depending on the mixture, if you have some orchard grass in there or timothy grass in there too. There you go, timothy grass.
What is timothy grass?
It's just another grass.
What's your favorite kind of plant to like study, or have you studied?
Oh, peas, the masters. No, I don't want to work in peas anymore.
Yeah, you're telling me your
like
thesis
there's like tendrils all over. You try and walk through a pea field, it's a pain in the butt.
They're vines, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, they're legumes, and the ones I worked on they were semi-leafless, but they had a lot of tendrils and vines, if you will.
Yeah, because I had a pea plant and it got pretty big. I was like, it was like crawling up on the side of my house and stuff. I'm like going through all my other plants. I don't know how to plant them. I just like planted it and I was like, grow. Watered it. It grew.
I think I'd work on any plant.
Yeah.
Corn can be tough because it can just cut you.
Yeah.
The leaves are so sharp and so big, and they're at that shoulder level, Let's see. Wheat's good. You got to remember, all these have no shade, right?
Yeah, it's all sun.
Yeah, all sun. So
somebody was trying to talk to me about the GMO stuff the other day. It just came into my head, and they were like so anti-GMO, and I was like, "Do you like apples?"
Good point.
Yeah, and they were like, I love apples. And I'm like, do you realize that there's like, 2 native apples to North America or something like that?
Yeah. Everything else is modified or crossbred, whatever.
Yeah, and I told them, I was like, apples are genetically modified. Why do you think we have like 1,000 different apples?
You can't have all these different varieties without some
modification
breeder sitting back there.
Yeah, so that's usually the argument. They were like, well, they're not GMO. And I'm like, well, they kind of are. And it's been something, like you were saying earlier, it's been something that like civilizations have done forever. Like you were saying, corn.
Yeah.
Like try to eat corn from Indian days, and they were like little tiny, hard.
I mean, really tiny.
Tasteless.
Yeah.
Nothing. And nowadays we have these giant stalks, dude. Giant corn, sweet corn.
Full of sweet corn that tastes delicious when you put a little butter on it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I always thought that was kind of interesting, and I had heard an argument for and against it, but I mean, at the same time, I think most people would probably stir against like the injection of genetics to change the genetic makeup of that plant.
Gotcha.
But you can probably still achieve that same thing through introducing other plants and like figuring out. It's just a quicker process, probably.
It is a quicker process, and what are we at? 7.5 billion. I keep seeing that we're coming up on 8 billion people on the
8
planet.
billion.
That's a lot of people.
That's a ton of people.
That's a lot. I can't comprehend it.
And don't they say, what is it, like 1% of America like farms like 110% of the food that we eat?
Basically,
and we
yeah.
export the majority of it to other countries, and then we
yeah.
import the same shit that we export. I don't understand how that works,
I
but we import the same stuff we export. Somehow we make money on it.
As far as macroeconomics is concerned, I'm not an expert.
But even farming methods have completely changed. I mean,
yeah, in that book, you'll see some stuff on like no-till drilling and stuff like that, where you're leaving some stubble for the winter, so you don't erode all your soil.
Oh, I didn't even know that. So you don't erode your soil. How do you mean, like
you get wind and water, so
it doesn't push all the topsoil off?
Yeah. Traditionally, you'd harvest your crop and just let it be fallow for the winter.
Yeah.
Nothing on there. You're gonna lose a bunch of soil over that winter and spring
from the wind just kicking it up. And
anymore the farmers want to leave some stubble there, so there's not only the stubble but that root structure's in there. It's kind of holding it all together.
And then when they go back through on the next rotation or next season or whatever, they just till that back in.
Well, they call it no-till drill seeding.
Oh yeah, that's what you just said.
Yeah, so no-tilling, you just come in and plot your seeds right in there. Yeah.
And they have like machines now that just like plot them in there for them.
Yeah, I mean the farming advances are going to be amazing. Why can't I think of? It'll come to me in a minute.
Yeah, dry farm. My dad was the first person who told me about the whole dry farming thing. He's like, "Oh, see all these fields, dry farming." And we were like driving over to Washington. I was like, "What is that?" And he explained to me that most places isn't it because they get enough rain throughout the year? Yeah.
So we're all irrigated down here. There's a little bit up on the bluff north of Mountain Home that's non-irrigated, but most are non-irrigated up north.
Makes sense.
Which is cool. I mean, if you're a farmer and you don't have to pay for water, that's sweet.
Or have to deal with your water rights, dude.
Right? That's a big issue. I just drafted a letter of support for the Elmore County Commissioners. They're talking about raising Arrow Rock Dam 6 feet. Okay? It's going to be 29,000 acre feet more that could hold. I did the math on it, and it was 9.48 billion gallons of water.
Whoa.
Yeah.
More on the backside of that dam.
Yeah. So they got Bud Corbis is actually really pushing that, and it's really good. It's a huge project. So that's what the Bureau of Reclamation, the Department of Water Resources, and I forget the other big government entity involved in making that decision.
And you drafted a letter against it?
No, for this.
Okay.
For this,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
We're basically a big aquifer over in Elmore County, and most of our water just ends up in Ada or Canyon County.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, which is interesting.
That is really interesting. So a lot of the water comes out here to Boise?
Yeah.
Huh. Like drinking water or like irrigation water or both?
Both.
Probably both.
Both through the Snake River,
Yeah, that's cool. Have you ever done any work over at the Craters of the Moon? With
no,
the giant aquifer underneath?
No, but I've driven by it, and I have a book in the office. I have not read it. But it talks about the geological formation and all this crazy stuff.
It's insane. So my understanding is the aquifer underneath there is, I think it's the largest underwater aquifer in the entire United States.
Really?
Yeah.
That is cool.
There's a giant lake underneath it.
Really?
Yeah. So I think when you're driving over, like across it, you're driving on top of a lake.
Wow.
Which is really interesting. I don't remember who it was. I was driving by it one time, and it might have been on a sign too, and we had just talked about it and seen it on a sign. But I'm pretty sure, well, I remember this, but I'm pretty sure we may have seen it and been like, whoa, that's an aquifer? And I think the sign did say, like, something largest underwater lake in, like, the United States or something like that.
Really? I will think of that next time, because I travel to Pocatello and Idaho Falls quite a bit, and I like to go Highway 20. Have you ever had Pickles Place Burger there in Arco?
I haven't. Wait.
Dude.
I had a steak from there.
Oh, was it good? The
Yeah.
burgers are amazing.
Are they?
Yeah.
That's Arco. Is also a very interesting spot.
It is. Have you ever done any research on INLA and stuff like that?
I haven't.
Okay.
There's a lot of nuclear stuff out there, though.
Yeah, it was. I think it was the first nuclear lab built in the U.S. It was also one of the first that had a major catastrophe and a couple deaths. I think there was 3 deaths.
Yeah, they it was the first nuclear-powered town in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And out front they have like a submarine, because I think they also helped put together the first nuclear submarine.
Yeah, I've stopped at that little park and let the dogs out, let them run around.
That's cool. That's cool. You go down there often for work, or yeah?
We do a lot of conferences. Our big potato conference is over there.
Mm-hmm. So INLA, so that stands for International. Wait,
I think it's Idaho
National Laboratory Association or something.
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
what our smartphones are for.
But that has to do. There was like some problems, I guess. What they were doing is they were transporting a bunch of like nuclear stuff from Nevada up to INLA.
Oh, really?
And they were burying it up here in Idaho. And there was a huge problem with that because they were doing it covert. And somebody found out about it, and they ratted on them, or maybe there's a whistleblower or something, and it became a big hot topic for a very minimal amount of time before the news figured out something else to talk about. But like, but I just remember there was a big tiff about that recently, in the last couple of years or something like that. Who knows? They're probably still doing it. I'm fine.
Yeah.
We're all gonna die of cancer anyways, right?
I keep telling people 10 out of 10 people die, so try and have some fun, man.
Enjoy your life.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Don't stress too much.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, Idaho's got we've got a crazy ecosystem here. And then you go to like North Carolina, and I think they say North Carolina has everything. Like
really, all the crops, everything, or what?
I think they hit like all types of ecosystems. Like
Really?
they have like desert, they've got like a rainforesty part, they've got like mountains, they've got like everything. I think they hit on like 5 different things. I think there's 5, right?
Wow. Well, so the farthest east I've been was Ohio and Pennsylvania when I was a kid. So I haven't been to North Carolina.
Ohio's kind of boring. PA's okay.
Yeah, I liked PA.
Yeah.
PA was good. We saw Pirates game.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it was nice. Three Rivers. It was Three Rivers.
That's
Stadium
cool.
back.
Yeah. I've only been to I've been to Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, so on both sides of the state, never in between. But had a good time when I was over on the East Coast. But dude, it's totally true. So with so what are you working on right now? You like 20 things or what?
Ooh, right now it's kind of calm right now, which is nice. The intern left about 2 or 3 weeks ago. She was great. We wrote a report for that. I just put together my 3rd-year review packet. I'm working on an impact statement for the University of Idaho right now. We did I thought it was a good program. It was a Spanish pesticide safety educational program. And we had some educators and someone from the Department of Agriculture come in, and they only spoke Spanish throughout the entire program. So it's basically focused at those agricultural workers that can only speak and understand Spanish. And I think that's great. I partnered with the Elmore County Hispanic Organization on that.
Yeah.
So I write that up and write kind of what our impacts are.
What are your thoughts on like organic farming?
I'm totally fine with it. I think it's good. Sometimes I wonder about the inputs compared to conventional, and I also wonder
like the political, like
I think
just like the the restrictions that are placed on them, because it's pretty crazy. Sorry to interrupt you, but
No, you're okay.
Just an experience. So I did some consulting for Sun-Maid raisins.
Okay.
Right, and they came in. They came into town. We did like a roundtable discussion. What are their new products they're coming out with? Like strawberry flavored. Like they have sour strawberry.
Really?
Yeah,
that
dude.
sounds good. I'll
They
take
have like
one.
lemon head flavor ones.
Nice.
Yeah, they have like all different kinds that they've released. I don't know if they still have them, but they
Wait.
did.
Before you get on to something else, I love the fact that in our day and age now, I can get like a vanilla, cherry, orange, strawberry Coke. When back in the day, we only had one flavor of Coke, right?
Yeah.
It was Coke.
It's Coke and Diet.
Well, they had when you grew up too. When I wanted a cherry Coke, they like busted out the maraschino cherry
And
jar
they would pour
like,
the juice in there. Yeah, totally.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, it's so true. Or you put vanilla in your Dr. Pepper.
Yeah,
yeah, or whatever it was. Because I used to do that all the time when I like growing up. Like I would put vanilla in my soda. But one of the problems that they were talking about, Sun-Maid, was that they were working on their organic farming.
Gotcha.
And they had a ton of farms because it's a co-op with those guys. And they had one of their farms, and what had happened was, and it created a big problem for them because I want to say like 90% of all the organic Sun-Maid raisins are sold through Costco. And Costco is like their biggest customer when it comes to that. Their organic stuff, because Costco kind of...
And do they use it for like trail mix or something like that, or
probably,
just straight raisins?
I think, and then they sell like the big containers of them for people. And
wait, a big Costco would be like this.
I think it's a couple pounds, dude.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing. It's like commercial, probably.
Gotcha.
Yeah, instead of handing out peanuts, you hand out raisins. I don't know, but I just remember they were a little mad about the whole organic processing because they do it over in California, and what had happened was a neighboring farm had blown it had blown over so far, and within the proximity, it left enough residue that when they came back through to do the testing for the organic stuff, they were like 2.5 years into this. And because it takes 3 years to prep it.
Yeah.
Like you have to prep it.
USDA is stringent on all that stuff.
Super strict.
Yeah.
And I guess what had happened was a neighboring field had kicked up a bunch of dust, and it dropped over on their field. And then when the testers came in to do all the testing, they're like, start over. And they 2.5 years, almost 3 years of work. Like they were literally like within 1 or 2 tests. I don't know how often they do these. They probably do them very often is what I'm going to assume. As far as the agency goes, and they were talking about how they lost hundreds of thousands of dollars on rotating the soil and like doing everything, whatever they had to do, and they were like pissed off about it. But that's one thing that's kind of a problem for me. It's like it's more expensive. Yeah, you're gonna pay a little more at the front end, but like these companies, like I don't think that's. They started over. They had to do like another 3 years. You know? And they weren't ready for it, and they lost an entire farm for 3 years.
Yeah.
And that leads me to my next question, because I was in grad school with a bunch of guys who worked for what's the big GMO company out in Washington that just sold out to Bayer? Monsanto.
Okay.
So these guys got their they had all received their degrees in like business ag.
Gotcha.
From like Washington State. So they all lived down here. They worked for Monsanto, and then there's another GMO center out here in Idaho, and I forget the name of it.
Was it Syngenta?
Syngenta.
Okay.
Yeah, is that off like Chinden or something like that? I think it's off Chinden, like way out that way. Because I've driven by there a few times, and these guys were telling me about pesticides, and they were like, "Oh, don't believe the hype, man! Like." Pesticides are fine. Like, you drop them on the crop. Most of the stuff they put on organic stuff is actually less healthy for you, and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, all right, whatever. This guy probably knows more than I do, because I was just asking him like what they were up to.
Yeah.
Like what are they working on? So we got into the whole spiel about pesticides. What are your thoughts on like certain types of pesticides and like Roundup and stuff like that?
That's such a hot topic right now.
It's such a hot topic.
No, there was that court case with the Roundup recently, right?
Mm-hmm. Like $8 billion or something like that.
Something crazy. I think pesticides are necessary, especially if you're growing crops at such large scales. So I worked for the Idaho State Department of Ag. Did you know that?
I did. Well, I saw it
It's
on your
on there.
Yeah, I saw it on
Yeah,
your
yeah,
on your
yeah.
CV. Yeah.
So I was an agricultural inspector
Okay.
or investigator. I can't remember. I think it's investigator. They give you a Glock 40. No, I'm joking.
Oh, I was like, damn, son, that's
That'd be cool.
hardcore.
I would have requested a 1911 anyway.
that would have been sick.
But we went out and we basically investigated pesticide misuse, right? Did use inspection, stuff like that. So you go out to a farm and see someone spraying, you watch him, and then after he's done, or you can interrupt him, and you go and write a report about it, get his rate and whatnot. So pesticides are necessary.
Right.
There's also some interesting data that says, the average homeowner, we use more pesticides per unit area than a farmer. Because a lot of homeowners spray
Way
at
too much.
extremely high rates and way too much, right? They're out there every week going shh. They want that perfect American lawn, right? The bright, lush green.
That's me, dude.
With no weeds. Mine's looking pretty good, too. So I'm slightly guilty.
Yeah.
So pesticides, they're necessary. We also, if you correlate that with genetically modified crops or organisms, you have like Roundup Ready sugar beets, Roundup Ready, whatever the crop is, soybeans, for example, right? They put this gene in those crops where the Roundup doesn't affect them. Roundup's a non-selective pesticide or herbicide. So you spray Roundup on any plant, it's basically going to die.
Yeah. But you can purchase these Roundup Ready plants, but they buy them from like Monsanto, right?
The big corporations, yes.
Yeah.
And they're genetically modified. And it makes sense in a way, but it's also not that, well, I'm not going to say it's not that good for the environment. It kind of scares me when you look at the pounds of glyphosate used in the U.S. Last year or the year before. It's a lot of pounds of actual active ingredient. So, you can imagine I have a 200-acre farm of soybeans, plant it, and then I go and spray it with glyphosate or Roundup.
Is that like the science name for Roundup?
That's
the main ingredient? Or
yeah, glyphosate.
Oh, glyphosate.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy. So,
and so with UVI extension, we try and get away from the trade names. Like Roundup.
Yeah.
I like to use more of the chemical name.
Yeah, totally. I didn't know that. I didn't know if it was like proprietary or what.
So the patent ran out, I forget when. And that's why other companies now have
like
products.
Roundup likable like products.
I mean, it's the same chemical. So, yeah.
And then they just like throw like a little bit more water or something in there.
Whatever.
Or something. Just so
whatever the
inert
ingredient is, yeah.
Yeah, so that they can't get busted for stealing.
We have an interesting economy, don't we?
We do, man. So you came over with some awesome some seeds. So are these like wildflowers?
They are. They're all adapted for an arid climate. I think I got them off of Eden Brothers online. I bought like a couple 100 pounds of that through a grant from the University of Idaho, and then also through some of my budget. It's a great little mix. If anyone in the area ever wants to stop,
I just want to see if it smelled like anything.
Yeah.
If it was like spicy or something. It kind of looks like something I'd put on my food, bro.
Right? Like sprinkle it on a steak.
It literally looks like something you'd throw like in steak or like in something. Yeah.
And the list of species is right there on it. So you got all sorts of cool stuff in there. And that kind of, it goes along with my big programming in the next 5, 10, 20 years is going to be bees and pollinators. That's what I'm thinking. So in 2018, Mountain Home joined with Bee City USA. So we are an affiliate with them. They joined with the Xerces Society recently, which is cool.
What's that?
The Xerces Society is a big conservation society. Very environmentally focused. Native plants, pollinators, stuff to sustain and enhance our ecosystems.
That's cool. Dude, there's so much that I didn't even know. All different programs and...
Oh.
Dude, this is like never ending, man.
It is. You just
There's
keep
so
reading.
many
Just
things.
keep
I
reading.
know.
I mean, we
All
do
12
STEM
pages.
stuff.
What's STEM stuff?
So there's STEM and then there's STEAM. Science, technology, engineering, and math. If it's STEAM, you throw in the arts. It's just trying to get kids more...
Involved.
Yeah, and make it more fun and interconnect all these things into fun projects.
Yeah. That's so cool. So,
Have you ever heard of like the Idaho STEM Action Center?
no.
Dude, you should look that up. I think it was initiated by the last governor.
Mm-hmm.
He put a couple $1 million in this fund, and they just go out and teach kids STEM stuff. That's all they're doing. That's their only goal and focus. And there's grants. It's one of the most amazing centers I've ever seen.
That's so cool. So how can people get involved in stuff like that? Where do they go? Like what websites? Like if people are listening to this and like, I want my kid to do 4-H. Screw Boy Scouts.
I would go to my Facebook pages. I have the University of Idaho Extension Elmore County one, the UVI Extension 4-H Elmore County one, UVI Extension Elmore County Master Gardener one, and then my personal one. I kind of keep that to
just personal, man.
Dog photos and solar panel photos. You know
House
what I mean?
projects.
Yeah. Nothing too crazy.
That's so funny.
Try not to get involved in the drama.
Me too, man. I try to keep my stuff kind of separate.
What was that? I keep arguing with the last intern I had and my program assistant now. I keep telling them that we're Zennials. Mm-hmm. You know that. We're Zennials.
Yeah.
Way different.
We are way different.
Way different.
What do they say? Zennials are like 82 to like 87 or something like that?
The last thing I said was 77 to 87.
77 to 87?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're the last generation to really not have the internet growing up, and if we did, it was so slow. It's like
they don't know.
Picked up the phone,
right?
Yeah, it cut you off.
You know, I mean, we were doing the AOL Messenger and like chatting with our girlfriends back in what 7th grade, 8th grade. That's when, and you had
Instant Messenger.
Yeah, next to your computer, you had I don't know, a dozen or 2 dozen of those AOL.
Bloop,
yeah, bloop. Whatever it was.
Yeah,
the free trial for.
Oh, you're talking about the discs.
The discs, yeah.
You re-sign up all the time with those discs.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember we would like play Frisbees with those because you would come like every week, dude.
Yeah, just constantly.
Just blasted. Everything was like AOL discs were everywhere.
They were. I wonder where they all ended up. Some landfill somewhere.
Some landfill. I wish somebody would recycle those.
Yeah.
AOL just turned off AOL Instant Messenger. They just turned off the server.
I didn't know it even existed still. Though every now and then I would see someone that will email me from a AOL email address, and I'm like, there's a lot better now.
Yeah.
Go to Gmail or something.
Yeah,
you know?
go to Gmail.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen. I was thinking about that the other day because I have Yahoo, and my school had switched over to the Gmail server, like my undergrad, like right before I left, and they gave me a new email address, and I have Yahoo. Well, I've got Yahoo, a couple Googles, and then I have like an MSN. And I was like, I don't ever use anything but my Google emails. Like it's all spammed email addresses now that I get all my spams. And if somebody's offering something to me, I just give them my Yahoo email.
Yeah, right. Like you send it there.
Yeah, send it to my email address at yahoo.com, which I created like in high school because. That's what was popular back then was Yahoo and AOL.
Remember, I think one of the first emails, was it Pegasus Mail? Do you remember Pegasus?
I remember Pegasus.
Yeah, see.
And Hotmail.
The millennials don't know about Pegasus.
Yeah.
I think that's like
the granddaddy, dude.
Right? Yeah.
That's old school. I remember my dad had
school.
a Pegasus email too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did it have a horse or something on
yeah,
it?
with wings.
Yeah, okay, just making sure I got it right.
Yeah,
I remember that. Dude, yeah, that's old school, man. Well, shoot, dude. What else did you want to cover?
What else do we got? I've written some cool articles, though. They aren't that exciting. They're just really research-based, scientific. That bee study, when I get that data and start writing that will be really cool, I think.
That'd be really interesting.
It'll be on the front. not the front, but the forefront of what I think of as extension work is getting out this information that benefits everyone, right?
Yeah. Do the titles for these papers. So, do these circulate between like at schools and stuff like that? Like, do they read these, or where do these go?
Let's see. They're within.
The name of that is like intense, bro. I'm like intimidated.
This is. Let's see. I don't even remember where we published this. Okay, this was the Journal of Economic Entomology. It's in the sampling and biostatistics portion of their journal, and the title is. Tim's scared to read it, but I'll read it.
I mean, I could.
Derivation and validation of a binomial sequential decision plan for managing pea aphids as direct pests of dry pea in the Pacific Northwest.
So
simple.
Do those pea aphids, do they are they detrimental to the plant? Are you trying to control them, or do you want there to be enough because the plant might need them?
No, they're detrimental and they affect yield.
So what do you guys do to kind of control those populations? Is there spraying that's done? Yeah, they do spray.
And this research was kind of to help that grower find a population level where it's economical to spray.
Yeah.
And once they get past a certain population, you're basically losing yield anyway.
Yeah.
So if you spray, you're
paying for extra spray, and then you're losing the crops.
Yeah. So it was finding that break-even point. We call it the economic injury level.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. So the farmer actually paid you guys to put this together?
No, the USDA grant did.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
And then how did you guys find a topic?
Actually, a lot of these topics are brought about by... Oh, what is the name? But it's basically you get all the growers in a meeting and say, hey, what are your top pests? And what's the problem? You know? Mm-hmm. Some of the stuff, I've done some virus research before. One of those might have some virus in it, so...
Well, wasn't there an issue with like a potato virus or something like that over in eastern Idaho this year?
There's several potato viruses, potato virus Y and X, and those are all transmitted by the green peach aphid.
And does that aphid just like eat the plant, and then the plant just like, what happens?
Well, basically all these aphids, there's a great paper that kind of sums them up as flying needles. Mm-hmm. You know, they fly around, they stick their mouth parts in a plant, start sucking on the xylem, the photosynthetes, and then stop and then fly off. And well, the virus particles are very integral with aphids. It's really interesting. It's very highly evolved. There's several different types of viruses. Mm-hmm. There's like non-persistent that just might get stuck on their mouth parts, and then there's persistent ones that actually travel through their digestive system and then cross like the mid-gut membrane. Mm-hmm. They're actually grabbed by certain receptors in there, then floated through the hemosyl up to the salivary glands. So next time it feeds, it will inject that virus into that plant.
And the way that they mitigate this is like GMO, or no?
Ooh, the way to mitigate the viruses, that's a tough one.
Spread.
That's a tough problem. Mm-hmm. You want to basically stop primary infections.
And does it spread throughout the entire crop at that point, or is it just because as soon as one catches mm-hmm. it and that aphid injects another one, they just go from like plant to plant basically, and each plant is individually injected by an infected aphid?
Yeah, basically.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
It can get pretty nasty, and you know, the aphid biology is interesting. Maybe we'll do another episode just on aphids.
That would be fun.
Because that's my expertise, but they're very complicated.
Yeah. That would
very
be super cool.
Complicated.
That would be really cool. We should, man.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. When we were in college, and we'd get bored, we would like collect like the biggest spiders we could get, right, in a bottle or like a jar. And then we would like feed them for like a couple weeks, try to get them all fat, like, you know, like help them out. And then we would like introduce them in the exact same like jar, like a clean jar, and we'd watch them kill each other.
Nice.
And we'd put bets on them. We'd have spider wars, right?
Nice.
And we'd have like spider bets, and we'd be like, is this house spider going to kill this spider we found outside that's got like yellow and shit on it? What's going to win? $5 on the yellow spider, you know?
Nice,
like
that sounds fun.
We had a lot of fun.
Cool.
We didn't really want to fight chickens or dogs, so we figured we'd fight spiders. And when I was a kid, I remember when I was a kid, I would like go collect. We had a cabin out in like West Yellowstone area, and I would go out and I would collect like a giant, and we had a lot of carpenter ants and giant red ants out there.
Nice.
So I would collect like a piece of wood with probably like 20 or 30 carpenter ants, you know, and I would walk over to like a nest of like the red ants, and I would just drop it on top, and I'd see all the red ants coming out, like all the guarding ants, right? They'd come out and just everything was it was chaos, bro. Everything was getting killed, everything was dying, and I would just sit there and watch it and be like, whoa, this is like a war. And I would sit there for like 20, 30 minutes, man, just watch all these black like
and see that'd be
carpenter
cool
ants get killed.
Ants are even interesting to me. It's a very large family of insects. There is a great book on insect biodiversity that basically says 1/3 of all the animal biomass on Earth. That's a weight.
Yeah.
Is termites and ants. Those two groups collectively, 1/3 of all the animal biomass. So that would include all humans, all reptiles, the blue whales in the ocean, all the crustaceans on the world. Like, that's crazy.
I wonder how they gauge that though, because we're constantly finding new things, man.
You're right.
So
I think
based on what they know of, probably.
Yeah,
based on current knowledge.
The ocean interests me. There's a lot of stuff that interests me.
Well, I mean, think about this. We have almost 8 billion people. And I think they say that 70% of everything that's on a map is flyover. So only 30% of like this land that we live on is touched by man.
Yeah.
The rest is just flying over and saying, all right, there's fucking land there. Draw a line. You know, like, draw a line. This is the map, Doug. So that's exactly how it is, you know, when they're mapping areas out, I guess. And so if we have 8 billion people living in 30% of the world that we even know about, there's 70% of the world that we've never even discovered, dude, which is why there's Bigfoot sightings, there's Nessie sightings, and there's all these weird things because we really don't know. You only know what you know, right?
Well,
and you only know what you're told.
Yeah, one of my great mentors always said, know what you know so you know what you don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Like, stay within your realm, but, like, don't pretend that you know this or whatever.
Yeah, know what you know. Yeah, exactly. And then what was the second part? Know what you know, but so you know what you don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense, especially if you're like speaking on a subject. You don't want to sound like an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to sound.
I've done it once. Only once, though.
I only do it when I'm in like really special meetings.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it, man. No, that's totally true. So, I mean, even in the water, you know, like, how do we not know that there are like civilizations underwater that have adapted and evolved that are out in the middle of the ocean? We're not out there.
That's right.
We don't know.
I mean, you're right. We don't know that for sure.
Right.
So it could exist.
Yeah. Well, you hear about like unidentified submerged objects by like tankers and stuff out there.
Are you talking USOs?
I'm getting USO, dude. We're getting crazy. Uh-oh. But it has to, you know, it all circles back to like life in general. Like, do we really even know that that like aliens are extraterrestrial? Are they intraterrestrial? Are they advanced civilizations that are under the water, that evolved under the water, and then they slowly came up, you know, onto the land? The only reason I say that is because if you look at a lot of the characteristics that we have through evolution, and they claim that we evolved from like ape, you know, the
primates,
primate, like the plains ape, right? But it wouldn't make sense that if we evolved that way. What happens when you get like pruny fingers? It's your brain actually telling your hands to change, or your feet to change their texture so that you can hold things underwater better.
I saw that somewhere, and I thought that was interesting, and that's pretty cool, isn't
it's
it?
the water ape theory.
Yeah. I've never heard of the water ape theory.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's that we evolved closer to the water, not on dry land.
Oh.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like, there's fish in the water, like there's water. You know, you don't have to go searching for those things. We're also the only species of primate, technically, if you want to consider us a primate. We're the only one that can give birth underwater, and our babies naturally know how to swim and breathe.
That's in. I see.
only
I've
one.
never even looked into that
Yeah.
because I've heard of people birthing in bathtubs or whatnot
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
a couple inches of water.
Apes can't do that. Their babies will
Huh.
sink like a rock and die.
Really?
Yep. So, I mean, if we evolved from that, like, why do we have all these other characteristics? The only time that an ape or, like, monkeys actually stand up on feet longer, like, on 2 feet long enough to, like, actually consider it, like, longer than a baby walk is when they're wading in water. You'll see them walk like this in water, dude. And they wade through water, and then the moment they're back on dry land, they're back on their knuckles. Just all these really weird things.
I want to look into this water ape theory.
It was introduced by a woman, and she was not really accepted into the science field because it's not traditional science.
Well,
you don't go against traditional science.
Well, the people that really push those ideas or theories, I think, are the groundbreakers.
They are.
They're the ones that might be laughed at for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And then in 70 years when they're dead, they're like, wow, that person was a genius.
Yeah. Like they wrote things and they knew things before science could evolve to that point.
Yeah, and there's been some really cool breakthroughs in the insect world lately.
Yeah,
like the
what?
phylogeny and stuff. So
How so?
Oh, how so? They always thought so. We thought that insects were really closely related to like centipedes and millipedes, right? Kind of makes sense. They're land. They have a lot of legs. Maybe they lost some and whatnot. But anymore, they're saying they're related to what they call remipedes in the ocean. Whoa. So these are crustaceans, and they're small ones, and they only live in caves. Like inland caves, so it's kind of like this brackish water.
No sunlight.
Yeah, no sunlight. They're basically eyeless creatures, and they're really cool. But there's a cool little diagram, and man, what would be fun is doing one on. We'll just write down like 12 theories.
We should
just like cross them off as we go through.
We should totally do that.
This is really cool. This is really interesting. This makes no sense. Like that would be fun.
That would be a lot of fun.
Right?
We need to do that. We're talking like conspiracy theory stuff.
Everything.
All
of it's on the table.
Dude, I'm so down, man.
Like, just cross it off. We'll do it unfiltered and,
Yeah. We'll do a party cast and...
Ooh, I like that.
We'll mix a drink and chill.
Okay, that will be not on my CV. This one's going on my CV.
that? Channel 99.
Yeah.
Awesome. Dude, that's what's up, man. Anything else we want to cover real quick? I mean, we're going hour and 45 minutes. What else you got going on? Yeah. Time flies, man. This is a time capsule in here.
It is a time capsule.
I've been in here for like 6.5 hours one time on a podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
You walk out and like, what's the moon doing? No, my goal is to promote education, promote our land-grant university through the University of Idaho Extension System. I'm in the Southern District. I really love my job. I do. I get to educate the public. I get to do my own research. We help develop youth through university-backed curriculum through 4-H. The Master Gardener volunteer program is awesome. We have a great community garden over in Mountain Home. I'm really, really loving Mountain Home these days. I never thought I'd say that 10 years ago.
I never thought I'd really hear that.
We're really coming along. We're a Bee City USA now. We're a Monarch City USA. We passed that a couple weeks ago.
What's that mean?
We're just interested in conserving the monarch population, the western monarch population.
I saw you post a couple photos of the monarch stuff, and I was meaning to ask you about this. I didn't even know monarchs came through Idaho. Is it just on their migration pattern, or what?
Well, yeah, there's basically 2 species. There's a western species and then an eastern species, and they're kind of divided by the Rocky Mountains. And we have the western. So I'm doing a photo shoot with the mayor tomorrow about it.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, you're a busy guy, and I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely, man.
You completely blew my mind today.
Let's do the theory thing. I like that.
Let's do theories and then an aphid show.
Yeah, I like it, dude.
I really am interested in the aphid stuff, dude.
All right, that'd be cool because we have about 1,500 species here. 1,500.
What?
Individual species. That's amazing.
That's insane. Yeah, dude. We're gonna.
So we can talk about
Dude, we can talk about it for hours.
Yeah.
I have to check
didn't
my
know
email for my real job.
Yeah, right?
But yeah, dude. Well, shoot, man. You've already given your contact information.
Yep.
Does any shout outs to anybody?
Boy, the Elmore County Commissioners. My bosses, Dr. Barbara Petty, Dr. Pat Momont, Betsy Lynn. Did I just...
You're good, man.
All right.
You're
Betsy
good.
Lynn, my program assistant. Nadine Cook. I couldn't say enough good things about Nadine Cook. She runs the 4-H program. Just an awesome lady. Jamie Davis.
Mm-hmm.
We just hired her as 4-H part-time. She's great. She also works on the Mountain Home Air Force Base. We didn't even talk about military.
No, we talked about that. Oh, yeah, because you worked with the Air Force and stuff, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm on the Military Affairs Committee. We'll do a steak burn later this year, which will be nice. Boy, parents, friends, anyone who wants to support me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Well, everybody, make sure that you tune in to the next episode. Make sure you subscribe, give us 5 stars, and pass the episode along. And also, have a wonderful rest of your day.